My wife's cold stare as she packed her bags still haunts me. "You gave away our vacation money to some random woman?" The door slammed behind her and our kids. 8 months of silence followed, all because I couldn't ignore a desperate mother's tears in the hospital waiting room. I never considered myself anything special, just a guy trying to keep the lights on and smiles on my family's faces. 12 years of marriage to Emma, 2 amazing kids, and a middle management position at Horizon Construction that paid the bills, but never much more than that. Every morning for the past decade, I'd gulp down black coffee, kiss my sleeping children's foreheads, and drive to construction sites across the city while most people were still hitting snooze. My hands grew calloused. My back occasionally protested, but I never complained. This was the life I chose, the family I cherished above all else. Emma and I met in college. She was studying graphic design. I was pursuing a business degree I never quite finished. When she got pregnant with Tyler, I dropped out to support us. "Temporary," I'd told her, "just until we get on our feet." But temporary turned permanent as bills stacked up, and Lily came along 3 years later. I'll never forget the pride in Emma's eyes when I landed the job at Horizon, or how it slowly faded as years passed, and we remained stubbornly fixed in our financial situation. Comfortable enough, but always one emergency away from trouble. "Next year" became our mantra for the Disney World trip I'd promised the kids. Every Christmas, we'd wrap little Mickey Mouse trinkets with notes saying, "Soon, we promise." The disappointment in their eyes grew harder to bear each passing year. Emma would give me that look, the one that silently accused me of failing them somehow. At night, she'd scroll through social media, showing me photos of her college friends vacationing in exotic locations. "Just once," she'd whisper, "I want us to have something special too." So when Mr. Reinhardt called me into his office that December afternoon, I nearly collapsed when he slid the bonus check across his desk. $8,000. My hands actually trembled as I held the paper. $8,000 meant Disney World. It meant Emma's smile returning. It meant fulfilling a promise that had hung over our family for years. I drove home in a daze, stopping only to buy a bottle of champagne we couldn't normally afford. That night, as the kids slept upstairs, Emma and I sat at our kitchen table planning the trip down to the smallest detail. Her eyes sparkled in a way I hadn't seen in years as she researched hotels and made lists of rides the kids would love. For the first time in forever, I felt like I'd done something truly right, like I was the provider I'd always wanted to be. We stayed up until 2 a.m., drunk on cheap champagne and expensive dreams. What I didn't tell Emma was how my boss had pulled me aside after handing me the check. "You earned this, Braden," he'd said. "You're always the first one to help others, sometimes to your own detriment. Don't ever lose that quality." His words warmed me more than the bonus itself. It was who I was at my core. The guy who stopped to help strangers change tires, who donated blood religiously, who could never pass a homeless person without emptying his wallet. Emma called it my savior complex. Maybe she was right. Maybe I should have seen the warning signs. How could I have known that a routine doctor's appointment the following week would change everything? That my fundamental nature, the very quality my boss had praised, would destroy the life I'd worked so hard to build? That the choice between helping a desperate stranger and keeping a promise to my family would cost me everything I held dear? The Disney World brochures still sat on our coffee table, mocking me with their colorful promises of magic and joy. But the real magic, the ability to be the man my family needed without sacrificing who I truly was, had already slipped through my fingers. The fluorescent lights of the hospital waiting room made everyone look sickly. I was only there for a routine physical, company policy for all site supervisors. The paperwork was taking longer than expected, so I settled into an uncomfortable plastic chair, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. That's when I first noticed her. A woman about Emma's age, pacing frantically while speaking in hushed, desperate tones on her phone. "Please, there has to be something you can do," she pleaded, voice cracking. "He's only 7. The insurance denied it again, and the hospital wants payment before—" She covered her mouth to stifle a sob. I tried not to stare, but something about her desperation punctured my bubble of contentment. Her shoulders shook as she sank into a chair across from me, burying her face in her hands. I should have looked away, should have minded my own business. But when she lifted her head, the raw anguish in her eyes made it impossible to pretend I hadn't witnessed her pain. "Are you okay?" The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Her name was Melissa. Her son Ethan needed emergency surgery for a heart condition their insurance deemed pre-existing. The hospital wanted $7,500 up front. She had $1,200 to her name. No family to help, no credit left to leverage. Just a single mother watching her child's chance at life slip away while bureaucracy and poverty formed an impenetrable wall. I felt the check burning in my wallet. The Disney World money. Emma's smile. My children's joy. All of it flashed before my eyes as Melissa showed me a picture of Ethan. Gap-toothed grin, eyes bright with life, unaware that financial circumstances might determine whether he kept breathing. "I'll figure something out," she said, wiping tears away. "I always do." I don't remember making the conscious decision. One moment I was sitting there, the next I was walking with her to the billing department, checkbook in hand. The clerk's eyebrows shot up when I wrote out the amount. $7,000. Almost our entire bonus. My hand trembled, but I signed my name with certainty that felt both absolute and terrifying. Melissa collapsed against me, sobbing thank yous into my shoulder. I awkwardly patted her back, already feeling the first pangs of dread about explaining this to Emma. "It's just money," I said, more to myself than to her. "Your son's life is worth more than a vacation." The drive home was the longest of my life. I rehearsed a dozen different ways to explain what I'd done, constructing careful arguments about how we could save again, how we'd make it to Disney eventually, how some things transcend family obligations. None of them sounded convincing, even to my own ears. Emma was preparing dinner when I walked in, humming softly as she stirred pasta sauce. The Disney brochures were spread across the counter, sticky notes marking the attractions she'd planned for each day. When she turned and smiled at me, I felt physically ill. "You did what?" The wooden spoon clattered to the floor as Emma's face transformed from confusion to disbelief to fury. "You gave our money, our vacation money, to some random woman you met today?" "Her son was dying, Emma. The hospital wouldn't—" The slap caught me completely off guard, her palm connecting with my cheek with surprising force. "How dare you!" she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "Do you have any idea how long we've waited for this? How many times I've had to see the disappointment in our children's eyes?" I reached for her, but she backed away like my touch might burn her. "There are charities, Braden. Social services. You are not responsible for saving everyone in this world." "I couldn't just walk away," I whispered. "No, but you could walk away from US," she spat. "From your promises, from your own children's happiness." The argument escalated until Tyler and Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, eyes wide with fear. I'll never forget how they flinched when Emma hurled a plate against the wall. "Daddy gave away our Disney trip," she told them, voice shaking with rage. "He decided some stranger was more important than his own family." The confusion and hurt in their eyes gutted me more effectively than any physical blow. I tried to explain, to make them understand the impossible choice I'd faced, but Emma cut me off. "Pack your bags," she hissed. "We're going to my parents." "Emma, please, don't." The cold finality in her voice froze the blood in my veins. You made your choice today, Braden. Now I'm making mine. Within an hour, they were gone. The house echoed with absence. No children's laughter, no familiar sounds of Emma moving through our shared space. Just silence and the crushing weight of consequences I wasn't prepared to face. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's father, words laced with contempt. Always knew you'd fail them eventually. A real man provides for his family first. I sat alone at our kitchen table until dawn, surrounded by Disney brochures and shattered dreams, wondering if doing the right thing should feel this devastatingly wrong. The weeks after Emma left blurred together in a haze of emptiness and self-doubt. Our home, once vibrant with life, became a hollow shell. I'd come back from work to find toys still scattered where the kids had left them. Emma's coffee mug still in the sink, as if preserving these artifacts might somehow summon my family back. The silence was deafening. Emma wouldn't take my calls. Her parents acted as gatekeepers, allowing me only brief supervised phone conversations with Tyler and Lily. "Daddy, when are you coming to get us?" Lily would ask, her 6-year-old voice breaking my heart all over again. I had no answers that wouldn't sound like excuses to a child. The isolation crushed me. Friends I thought would understand instead took Emma's side. "Man, you couldn't have just donated a portion?" my buddy Mark asked when I tried explaining. His expression said everything. I was the villain in this story, the irrational one, the one who'd torpedoed his family's happiness for a stranger. Even my own parents questioned my judgment. "We raised you to be generous, Braden, but this—" My mother couldn't even finish the sentence. By the 3rd month, depression wrapped around me like a second skin. I started sleeping on the couch, unable to face our empty bed. Work became my only refuge until Mr. Reinhardt pulled me aside. "Whatever's going on at home is affecting your performance," he said, concern etched across his weathered face. "Get it together, or we'll have to reconsider your position." That night, I hit rock bottom. Standing in our bathroom, staring at my haggard reflection, I punched the mirror with enough force to shatter glass and skin alike. Blood dripped from my knuckles as I sank to the floor, finally allowing myself to cry. Ugly, guttural sobs that tore from somewhere primal within me. Had I ruined everything? Thrown away my family for a foolish impulse? The doubt was corrosive, eating away at the certainty I'd felt in that hospital waiting room. The letter arrived the next day, a simple white envelope with unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a photograph of a smiling boy in a hospital bed, tubes still attached, but color returned to his cheeks. The accompanying note was brief. "Ethan's surgery was successful. The doctors say he'll make a full recovery. There are no words to express what you did for us, but I'll spend my life trying. You saved more than my son that day. You saved me too. With eternal gratitude, Melissa." Something broke and mended simultaneously within me as I traced the boy's smile with trembling fingers. I hadn't been wrong. The choice was impossible, but I couldn't have walked away. This was who I was. Flawed. Perhaps too willing to sacrifice, but incapable of turning my back on suffering when I had the power to help. The realization didn't erase the pain, but it steadied me, gave me purpose. I cleaned up the broken glass, bandaged my hand, and made 3 decisions that night. First, I would fight for my children with everything I had. Second, I would rebuild my life, with or without Emma. And third, I would never apologize for the fundamental nature of who I was, even if that nature had cost me dearly. The next morning I walked into work with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Mr. Reinhardt noticed immediately. "There he is," he said, nodding approvingly. "Welcome back." I threw myself into projects with renewed vigor, staying late, solving problems others avoided. When a position opened for regional manager, a significant promotion, I pursued it relentlessly, preparing for the interview as if my life depended on it. Perhaps it did. The day I got the promotion coincided with the day Emma's lawyer served me separation papers. The juxtaposition was almost poetic. Professional ascent alongside personal collapse. The documents listed irreconcilable differences and requested primary custody of our children, allowing me only weekend visitation. Her lawyers painted me as financially irresponsible, emotionally unstable. The allegations felt like physical blows, each one striking deeper than the last. But instead of crumbling, I channeled the pain. I started volunteering at the same hospital where I'd met Melissa, sitting with families facing impossible choices of their own. I hired a lawyer who believed in my case. I documented every attempt Emma made to limit my access to Tyler and Lily, every manipulative comment, every distortion of the truth. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A mutual friend let slip that Emma had been telling people I'd gambled away our savings, that the story about helping a sick child was a fabrication to cover my addiction. The betrayal was staggering, not just abandonment, but character assassination. She hadn't just taken my family, she was systematically destroying who I was in the eyes of everyone who mattered. I sat in my car after hearing this, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, rage coursing through me like electricity. For the first time since she'd left, I felt something besides sorrow and self-recrimination. I felt righteous anger, the kind that burns away doubt and forges resolve. Enough, I whispered to the empty car. The word carried the weight of months of suffering, of sleepless nights, and Sunday afternoons when my children were returned to me with suspicious new beliefs about their father. The time for passive acceptance was over. I wouldn't just survive this. I would reclaim my narrative, my reputation, my family. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Melissa. "Ethan asked about you today. We'd like to thank you in person. Would that be okay?" I stared at the message, a plan forming with crystal clarity. Sometimes the universe offers exactly what you need, precisely when you need it. I typed back one word: yes. Emma chose Tyler's school fundraiser for her triumphant public return. 8 months after walking out, she swept in with her parents and our children, playing the role of dedicated single mother with Oscar-worthy precision. I watched from across the gymnasium as she accepted sympathetic hugs and concerned whispers, her practiced smile never reaching her eyes. The narrative she'd crafted, of the irresponsible husband who'd abandoned his family's dreams for a gambling problem, had calcified into community truth. I'd arrived early to help set up my new position as regional manager, having brought unexpected respect from the PTA mothers who'd previously avoided me. My promotion had come with a substantial raise, enough to rent a comfortable 3-bedroom apartment where Tyler and Lily had their own rooms for weekend visits. Small victories in a war I was still losing. "Quite the performance," said a voice beside me. Mark, once my closest friend, now Emma's most fervent defender, nodded toward my estranged wife. "You should have just come clean about your problem, man. People would have helped." The familiar anger flared, but I tamped it down. "Interesting theory, Mark. Completely fictional, but interesting." He scoffed. "Emma showed me the bank statements, Braden. The withdrawals, the lies. Did she show you the hospital receipts too? Or was that part inconvenient for her story?" I kept my voice level, aware of watching eyes. This confrontation was inevitable, but couldn't become the spectacle Emma would use against me in court. Mark's certainty wavered briefly before hardening again. "Look, I get it. Addicts lie to themselves first. But—" The gymnasium doors swung open, cutting him off mid-sentence. Melissa walked in, holding Ethan's hand. The boy moved with the awkward care of someone recently recovered from major surgery, but his eyes were bright as they scanned the room. When he spotted me, his face lit up with recognition. "Mr. Braden!" he called out, loud enough to turn heads throughout the room. Melissa smiled apologetically as she guided him toward us, unaware of the seismic shift she was causing in my carefully balanced world. Mark froze beside me. "Who's that?" "The gambling problem," I said quietly, moving to meet them. Ethan hugged me with surprising strength for his small frame. "Mom says you're the reason I got my surgery," he announced, his voice carrying in the sudden hush that had fallen over our corner of the gym. "She says you're a hero." Melissa extended her hand to Mark, introducing herself with the natural ease of someone unaware they've walked into a battlefield. "Brayden saved my son's life," she explained, emotion making her voice tremble slightly. "When the insurance denied Ethan's heart surgery, he gave us his family's vacation money. $8,000. I don't know what would have happened without him." The stunned silence around us spread like ripples in still water. I felt, rather than saw, Emma's approach, her heels clicking aggressively across the gymnasium floor. From the corner of my eye, I saw her parents intercept her, the father's hand gripping her arm with warning pressure. Mark's face had drained of color. "The Disney trip money?" he murmured. "You actually did give it to—" "A single mother whose child needed heart surgery," I finished for him. "Exactly what I said all along." The confrontation I'd expected never came. Instead, Emma retreated with her parents, their hurried exit the only acknowledgement of the unraveling narrative. Tyler and Lily remained, confusion evident as they watched their mother leave without them. In the vacuum she left behind, whispers swelled, realization dawning on faces that had judged me for months. Melissa, sensing the undercurrents, looked mortified. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," I assured her, kneeling to Ethan's level. "How are you feeling, buddy?" As the boy launched into an enthusiastic description of his recovery, I felt Tyler and Lily approach cautiously. My daughter tugged at my sleeve. "Daddy, is that the boy you helped instead of taking us to Disney?" The gymnasium seemed to hold its collective breath. Here it was, the moment that could either heal or deepen the wound. I met my daughter's eyes squarely. Tyler, always more perceptive at 10, looked at Ethan with new understanding. Was he going to die without it? "Yes," I said simply. "He might have." My son nodded solemnly, then extended his hand to Ethan with an adult's gravity. "I'm glad you're okay." Something broke inside me then. Not from pain, but from release. My children's natural compassion, untwisted by adult bitterness, shone like a beacon through fog. In that moment, I knew we would be all right, regardless of legal documents or Emma's manipulations. The months that followed weren't easy. The custody battle turned vicious as Emma's fabrications crumbled under scrutiny. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with piercing eyes, seemed particularly disturbed by evidence of parental alienation. When the final ruling granted me joint custody with equal time, far more than Emma's lawyers had deemed possible, I sat stunned in the courtroom, relief washing over me in dizzying waves. Emma refused to look at me as she stormed out, her parents trailing with thunderous expressions. Their influence, once so intimidating, had diminished to background noise. The truth had proven more powerful than their combined efforts to bury it. Life settled into a new rhythm. The children thrived in our shared arrangement, slowly healing from the confusion and divided loyalties. My relationship with them deepened as I learned to parent without Emma's mediation. There were still hard days, questions I couldn't answer, tears I couldn't completely dry. But there was genuine laughter, too, returning like spring after a punishing winter. I ran into Jessica at one of Ethan's follow-up appointments, a pediatric nurse with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner that immediately put me at ease. Our coffee, just to talk, turned into dinner, which evolved into more. She listened to my story without judgment, then shared her own experience of choosing principle over practicality. Most people want to do the right thing, she observed, until it costs them something. A year after Emma left, I finally took Tyler and Lily to Disney World. Not from obligation or to fulfill an old promise, but because we deserve joy after so much pain. Watching them run ahead of me down Main Street, I felt a contentment that transcended the bitterness of the past year. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "How's the magic?" I smiled, typing back, "Everywhere," in expected and unexpected places. Later that night, as fireworks exploded overhead and my children's faces reflected wonder in their kaleidoscope light, I thought about the strange journey that had led us here. How one decision, impulsive perhaps, but deeply aligned with my core values, had demolished the life I thought I wanted, only to rebuild something more authentic in its place. Emma had been right about one thing. I did have a savior complex, but she'd been wrong about it being a flaw. Sometimes the world needs people willing to sacrifice for strangers, to step into gaps others walk past. The cost can be devastating, but the alternative, becoming someone who turns away from suffering they could ease, would have been a slower, more insidious kind of destruction. Lily leaned against me, sleepy, but fighting to stay awake for the finale. "Dad," she murmured, "I think you did the right thing. About Ethan." I kissed the top of her head, throat tight with emotion. "Thank you, sweetheart." "But next time," she added pragmatically, "maybe just use half the money, so everybody wins?" I laughed, the sound carrying away on the night breeze. Out of the mouths of babes comes wisdom adults strain to grasp. "That," I told her, "is excellent advice." The fireworks reached their crescendo, light obliterating darkness in brilliant, defiant bursts. And in that moment, my daughter warm against my side, my son's hand clasped in mine, our faces turned skyward, I understood that true heroism isn't found in grand gestures or perfect choices. It lives in the aftermath of our mistakes and sacrifices, in how we rebuild from ruins, in our stubborn insistence on remaining true to ourselves even when the world tries to break us for it. I had lost and found myself in the same imperfect act, and somehow, against all odds, that felt like victory.